Intentional living's what we are. Being who we are. Seeing who we are through the eyes of God. Intentional living's what we are. Being who we are. Seeing who we are through the eyes of God. It's time to walk out all your purpose and your dreams. Living life with intentions and not caring what they think. But as long as God is by our sides, we got this and we know that we're living life with purpose and we're doing it, yeah, intentional.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intentional Conversations with I have some amazing guests with me today that we are going to have a conversation about intentional love. Listen, I know we're in the month of February and we went through Valentine's Day and now we're on to, of course, Black History Month is celebrated all month. But most importantly, the one thing that I feel like we all can share, not just in one month, but in every month, is just being intentional about love, not just loving others, but loving ourselves. So today we're going to have that conversation about intentional love. And that's talking about love, marriage, divorce, and even death. And for some, hey, finding love again. But that's the conversation we're going to dive into today. And I have like some amazing guests with me, some very close people that are dear to my heart. I have my girl T. Erica Leonard here with us. I also have Miss Sandra Flowers here with us. And then you have me. Hi. So, um, listen, we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to start with Tierica. Tierica, tell us about yourself. So the way the people will know who you are and what you're going to bring to this conversation and this table.
Okay, so I am T. Erica. I am 35 years old. I almost forgot that. 35. I'm a mom of two children, Kenna and Nala, five, six. She's six now, and eight. I've been married to my husband for 10 years this year. Um, Time is flying.
Yes,
I am a content creator. I do influencing. I do social media management. I have an empowerment movement. And I just enjoy everything that I do. So that's me.
that's her. And listen, y'all, she's good at what she does. So if you need her, you know how to find her. But don't worry, we'll put her handles and all that kind of stuff on here so that way you guys will be able to access her and what all she brings to the table. Thank you, T. Erica, for being a part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
Sandy,
Yes.
tell us about
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay, my name is Sandra Flowers. I am 68 years old. I am retired from the state of New Jersey. I am a widow. It will be 5 years in on March the 3rd that my husband passed. We started dating at 17, got married at 19, and we were married for 43 and a half years before the Lord suddenly called him home. So with that, yep, just a grandmother, mom, and just enjoying life, um, and just trusting in God and to do what He does best. So that's basically it. And I thank God for bringing me through to this point in my life.
Absolutely. And how many kids do you have, Sandy?
I have three daughters and three son-in-laws and six grandchildren.
All right. And that's the
Yeah,
girls.
yeah, yeah, definitely girls. Yeah, yeah.
That is wonderful. And like I said, we're just going to jump right into the conversations. As you guys can see, these ladies come from different backgrounds and they all have something else different, different age groups. But what we're going to talk about, starting with you, Tierica, when you got married, how old were you?
25.
She was 25 years old when she got married. So
25
getting
years
married
old.
in your 20s, how was that for you? And what were some of the challenges that you feel like that you had to overcome in that age group of getting married? Sure, times were different then than they are now.
Right. Um, I think for me, my journey was just so easy with my husband. Um, Not to say we didn't have difficult times, but being married young, I felt like the only type of, like, anything negative that I had was maybe people thinking we were too young getting married
Hmm.
at that age. I can't say that I've dated a lot because I was young when I got married, but when my husband walked into my life, it just felt ease. Like, I felt peace. I felt a joy that I've never experienced before.
Hmm.
So I think that, um, you know, that made our marriage a little more easier. However, we did have a lot of difficulties getting together because that was my first time, after we got married, living together. That was different. I was at home with my parents until I got married. So that's another thing. When you're married young, I was still home with my parents until it was time. The first time I was on my own, I was married.
Hmm.
So bringing his lifestyle and my lifestyle together for the first time was very different. Um, it's very different than just dating and getting dropped back off at home, and you're learning each other on different levels. It's not just about intimacy and stuff like that. You're learning each other on a level of, okay, so how do you clean? How do you do this? Like,
Right.
how do you do different things, and see how it, how we come together with this? Because some often those aren't the questions you ask when you're dating. I didn't think to ask him, so what is your cleaning routine? That wasn't a question I asked. So when you get together, you see how different you are, and you have to work through it. Um, Also, getting married young, I didn't have a lot of married friends. There was nobody really around me who else was really married. I'm the first of the family. Um, like the children and like cousins and stuff like that to get married. I didn't really have any married friends, so I didn't really have a community
Hmm.
around me to lean on, as a wife in her 20s. So I was kind of figuring it out. I
Hmm.
was kind of comparing my marriage to those who've been married for 10 years
Right.
because that's all I see. But all in all, it's been a blessing. But I feel like it's been such a learning experience. Even now, I don't think you ever stop learning in
Right.
your
Absolutely.
marriage. Um, but yeah, being married young is fun, but you really learn a lot about yourself too. So yeah.
So, even with that, so jumping over to you, Sandy, because I remember you said you got married when y'all were 19.
Wow.
Correct. Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Tiago was 25. You got married at 19. Um,
Yes.
at a whole nother time bracket of life. How was that
Yeah.
for you at 19? Basically, you guys were just what, out of high school?
Yeah, we graduated. Yeah, for a couple of years we were out. Yes. We started dating actually after graduation. So we started dating for 2 years. But yeah, everything that she said is absolutely on point. In a way, it's sort of like starting out with a clean slate because you really don't know anything.
Hmm.
My husband was also my first boyfriend, so I really had no experience with dating or anything like that. I also
Hmm.
left from my went straight to our apartment. And like you said, just trying to adjust to learn each other and what their habits were. But in a way, it was kind of good because neither one of us really knew how to cook. So we learned how to cook together. We were calling our asking us, how do you do this? How do you do that? You know? And then a year later, I had my first daughter. So now you got parenting in the mix too. So as you're still learning each other, now you're learning how to, be parents and stuff too. So, like you said, you really have a lot of good memories. It wasn't easy. You go through hard times, you go through difficult times, but God just works things out. He will, long as you just put him first, he will just work things out. If it's meant in his will. But yeah, you go through a lot. But I think sometimes when you go through things, it kind of brings, when you get to the other side, I think it makes your marriage stronger. Being married that long, you're going to have ups and downs and stuff, 43 and a half years. You know what I mean? But when God brings you through and gets you through, it is just like it's nobody but God, and a lot of the problems were because for us, we hadn't surrendered our life to God. So once we did that, that's when the Lord began to turn things around and just make the latter. And I'm so grateful for the latter part, of our marriage. We even had 9 years of retirement together where we
Right.
can spend every day together. That's when when you're working, it's one thing, you go and you come home and stuff. But when you're in the house every day, 24/7 with each other, that's when you really get to say, okay, we'd have like dates every week. We go out to lunch and stuff just to keep that spark in. And we just spent a lot of time together. And I thank God for that time before he called him home, because those are the wonderful memories that I have. We had a lot of them because we love to travel, but that gave us the opportunity to travel and just do whatever we wanted to do and just make new memories that I have now that I can keep and look back on. So yeah, but yeah, getting married at 19, like I had no friends that were married either. You know what I mean? So it's nobody, my parents were divorced. So I really didn't have anyone to go to, as far as questions concerning, marriage and things like that. So you just learn as you go. That's what it is. You figure it out as you go. Yep.
And the crazy thing, because when I think about it, I'm divorced now, but when I got married in my 30s. But it's like you can get all the foundationals of understanding what marriage is, but each marriage has its own uniqueness. And what may have worked for somebody else may not work for your marriage. So it's like finding that lane and that place that works for you guys, or what methods may work. Like you said, neither one of y'all knew how to cook, so y'all learn how to cook along the way together. You know, guess what? You said his cleaning methods, your cleaning methods wasn't the same. It's like, hold up, something ain't right here. So finding that balance, but finding that balance what works for you guys, and not what per se everybody else. Because somebody else's theory be, oh well, he does this and I do this, and take it. But that just is not everybody's dynamics in their relationship. So,
Yes.
finding that unique lane for your marriage, for your partnership, that's what's more important. And again, it's good to have people in your corner, but like both of you said, being young and getting married, you really didn't have too many people in your network that were married. You know,
That.
Sandy, you came from divorced parents. Your parents were married. So, it's just two different walks of life. And again, you got two different people coming from two different walks of life coming together and moving their worlds into one and making it work, or trying to make it work, for the
Right.
more so, for lack of better words. Um, so, I think that is extremely important, um, as you navigate through that. And as you guys have shown, you've been married for 10 years and you were married for 42, it was?
43. Yep.
43 years. That's a long time. That's a lot of changes. And even with that, and both of you guys can kind of answer to this, you know, as you grow in your marriage, as you've grown in your marriage, um, what would you say, like, some of the pinnacle things that kind of change throughout the years? Because, we all change and evolve as years go on. So we're not the same that we were when we got married. We're not the same 5 years later. So what would you say are some of the, like, key things that either somebody who's not married or somebody who's about to get married, they can take away, um, from two people that have been in marriage for a extensive amount of time?
Who do you?
I was.
Oh.
Either one of y'all
Oh,
can go
no,
first.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy.
No,
Sandra.
okay. I was just gonna say, I think learning to prioritize. I think that's an important thing. A lot of times, people get into marriage with expecting different things from the other person and
Mhm.
stuff. And I think one of those things is like, what's important. I know a lot of times it could be a financial thing. Where one person might have the attitude, well, we'll worry about the bills later. We're not gonna, let's just go on the trip, or let's do whatever. where, the other person's like, no, we're going to stay home or not go out to dinner, whatever it may be. I think you need to be on the same ballpark field for things like that with your finances. And I think that finances is a lot of times I've heard that it's one of the major things for, people breaking up or whatever. So, you need to know, but being older now, when I am engaged now and started dating, um, yeah, being older and haven't had all that experience, you know the questions to ask. At 19, you ain't know what to ask. Look, I love you, you love me. Let's just get married. You know what I mean? But when you're
Exactly.
Check
older,
yes or no. Do you love me?
yeah, right? So, but being older and having experience and gone through things, okay, well, how's your credit? How's this? You kind of have the questions to ask now. Well, what do you think about this? Do you want to travel? Will you want a home? What kind of not that those material things are important, but you still need to be on the same page when it
Absolutely.
comes to moving forward into a relationship, and 19, ain't nobody have no credit score because ain't nobody had no credit anyway, you know what I mean? So you don't want to get somebody pulling into all this debt. One might be debt free and other might, so all those things make a difference. And also at this age, we don't have to discuss having children, how many children we gonna have or anything like that, you know what I mean? 'Cause that's booked and sailed a long time ago. But you know, but just having those things, what do you think? And the most important thing is, where are you spiritually? Are you walking with the Lord? Are we on two different pages with that? Because that is major to me. For me, you have to be on the same page spiritually, because otherwise, how can two walk together except they agree? There's a reason that that's in the Bible, and you really need to take that into consideration when you are dating or thinking about marrying someone. So that's why I said, basically, what are your priorities? I think that's important for me. Yeah,
So basically, within your priorities, you're saying communication is key. Because we
exactly.
need to both make sure we're on the same page as far as financial, what our goals is, especially if you're getting married in the latter part of your life. So,
Yes.
yeah, what you looking for? What's your credit score? Where you at with your life? Because
Yes.
you don't want to get into no mess going into the end. We ain't doing
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
And then your spirituality, where being on spiritually on the same alignment spiritually.
Yes, that's very important.
Cool. T.
I agree with everything that she said. Mainly communication is the big thing for us, especially when we first got married. I communicate a lot. He didn't communicate. So it's just me. That's where a lot of the growth came from. He wasn't raised where you can really communicate and be open and transparent.
Mhm.
So I think me being able to be very transparent and open, I want to discuss everything. I didn't want to, he's the type will go in a room and just be quiet. Me, I want to discuss it now. So for me, we had to find that balance because my way wasn't wrong and his way wasn't wrong. It was just we needed to figure out what was going to work best for us. So I feel like the communication definitely changed in our relationship because in the beginning it was a little frustrating, if I can be, transparent, because he would shut down and I wouldn't shut up. um, I wanted to get my point across right then and there. He just needed a few hours to digest it. So I think communication was very big in our growth. Also, expectations. For the most part, we definitely had some similarities in what we expected the outcome of our marriage. But being young, we didn't know a lot of the things that we know now. Like she was saying, like credits and all of that kind of thing, and what we need to do to get a house and all of that. We didn't. We knew we wanted a house, but we didn't really plan. We didn't really plan. I feel like planning now is different than planning then. We would plan vacations and plan a life and plan that stuff, but now we are strategically planning our future. So I think that was a big growth within our relationship. So it's basically the communication and, like I said, expectations and planning, and the way that we plan is definitely different. Yes, the materialistic things aren't everything, but they do mean something to us. Like, we know what we want out of life. Also the sacrifices that we both had to make. With We didn't want to sacrifice our dreams, but we knew some things we had to sacrifice in order to get there.
Mhm.
um we had children right away. That wasn't our first initial plan. We just knew we was going to just travel the world for 5 years. We was going to do this and that. But I got pregnant 2 months after we got married.
Wow.
So that all, you know, went out the door. So I think for us, our growth was in how we plan, how we communicate, and our expectations within ourselves.
It was something key that you said there, that transparency part. He
Hmm.
was somebody who, I don't want to say clammed up or quiet, and then you like, no, we gonna talk about this right now. I
Right.
got something to say and you need to hear it.
Yeah.
Which I think sometimes I see for me, like when I was married, that was a thing. Like, I didn't used to always communicate growing up. I used to just internalize everything and stay
Mhm.
quiet and wouldn't speak about anything. So then
Mhm.
going through therapy, which I encourage everybody to do, um,
Amen.
therapist is needed in this world.
Yes.
Going through therapy helped me to learn how to be able to express and articulate my feelings, and not so much be fearful of what other people are going to think about it,
Right.
but learn how to let people know. Like, if something bothers me, let them know it bothers you. If some don't feel right to you, it's okay to say, hey, this doesn't feel right to me. And I think that was extremely key for me going into a marriage, because if I go in and I just allow somebody to walk over me, or I don't feel like I have a voice, or I'm not speaking up for myself, it's almost like you'll fall for anything. You'll just go with the flow because I just don't want to offend nobody. I don't want to say, knowing
Right.
that it's bothering you internally, but not
Yes.
saying anything and expecting someone to read your mind. We're not, people are not mind readers.
Right.
But learning to articulate that, and it, for me, whenever in a conversation and communicating, I have learned to how to think first before I respond,
Mm.
because that was big.
Yes.
Because I used to just pop off.
Mhm.
If it was on my mind, you're about to hear about what's on my mind. I went from not saying anything to now everybody's going to hear what I got to say,
Right.
and right in real time. And I had to learn that, Maisha, take a breath first, because when we respond without thinking first, we respond off of pure emotions. And
Mhm.
responding off of emotions may not, you won't get across what you're trying to say, because all your emotions are coming flooded out versus what it is you're trying to accomplish
Well,
in the conversation. So if y'all having a conversation about finances, and you talk about buying a house, and they like, well, first of all, you didn't pay this. It's like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. You talking about how? But because you've allowed so much to build up over time instead of addressing it in real time, it kind of makes things a little bit difficult. So yes, communication. So that was something that I heard you say. So in what you said, Tierica, the communication, the transparency, um, and then also it was the other word you said, and it was just on the tip of my tongue. Expectations.
mm,
I think a lot of times people go into relationships with false expectations.
Mhm.
We see the fairy tales online.
Mhm.
Like they say, women have been planning weddings since there was doll babies. It's like, oh, I'm going to have a
Right.
wedding like this, and all the flip, flam, and fleur. And that's not a marriage. That's a day. That's the day
Exactly.
you say I do,
It's a
but that's
moment.
not the marriage.
Hmm.
yes.
That's not the marriage. And for you, going to you, Sandy, after being with your spouse since high school and then losing them suddenly,
Hmm.
um, what was that like for you?
If I had to sum it up to a word, it would be devastating. Um, it totally just was undescribable. Um, I shut down, and I really didn't realize that until I came out of it. But basically, it was the worst trauma, the worst thing I'd ever experienced in my life. And I didn't know what to do with all the emotions and all the feelings. Like, I mean, you kiss, my husband's working a part time job, we retired, and you kiss him goodbye, and he goes out to that part time job, and then he never comes back home. So, and we would normally talk because he used to put out like directional signs. So we'd all, normally talk, when he was on his way home. So, and it's so funny how I just woke up out of a sound sleep and I just felt something in my spirit that something just wasn't right. Usually he'll call, ask me, I wanted to pick up something to eat or something coming home. And I looked and I called him, and for the police officer answered his phone. So immediately I knew something, wasn't right. To make a long story short, he had like a stroke or something while he was driving. And yeah, and I was so devastated. I couldn't even remember. I tried to put on my clothes to go to the hospital. They said they had sent him to the hospital. I couldn't remember how to put my clothes on.
Right.
That's how I had to ask the Lord, please, Jesus, just help me get my clothes on. The cops came to my home. Man, we can't allow you to drive like this. So my daughter came and got me, from there. But yeah, just suddenly like that, it made me really realize how short life is.
Mhm.
How we need to love on those we love, not whether it's a spouse or family members, whatever, while we can, while we have the opportunity, because we don't know what today may bring, the next hour may bring. So it just made me appreciate the time that I had with my husband, the love that we had, the journey that we had together and stuff. But yeah, it was truly devastating. It just left me numb where I didn't feel anything. You go through the pain and the transition and stuff. I didn't feel God anymore in me. I didn't feel anything. I just was just numb and just had no idea how to move forward. So it was very, then you don't realize also how much you depend on someone until they're gone. Like I never even had to put gas in my car. He'd always make sure I had gas. I never had to make sure, there was maintenance on the cars. Or I remember having a break. I had to go get something at Lowe's and couldn't find it. And by the time I got to the cash register to pay for it, I had a breakdown at the counter at the cash register with all these people on the line. And I'm like, I know they were like, okay, she's crazy. But I just, I'm telling the lady, I couldn't find this. My husband passed away. I never, and she was like consoling me. The cashier's consoling me. Ma'am, I lost my husband too. So you just never know. You know what I mean? You try and hold it in, be strong for everyone else, but inside you're just, it's just so painful. So yeah, it was a very, very difficult time for me. Yes, definitely.
Especially you guys being together so long and have,
That was the
yeah,
thing.
like being married for 43 years. You're doing life with this person for 43 years, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and now that life that y'all did together is no more.
Yeah, and that was the thing when you said about therapy. My kids recommended. They were like, "Mom," they saw the dark place I was in. They're like, "Mom, you really need to go to therapy." And it was through the therapy that I found out. She just asked me a simple question like, "Who am I? Who is Sandra?" Like I only knew me as a wife. I
Mhm.
knew me as a mother. I knew me as a grandmother. I never got the opportunity to know who Sandra was, what she really like. You kind of like when you get married, you kind of like morph into each other. You know what I mean? But as a
Mhm.
single person, I had no idea. And she was like, what do you want? You've been a good wife. You've been a good mother. It's time for you to, live for you. What do you want? And she kind of released me because I kept feeling that guilt. Well, okay, I got to do everything he did. I got to, because he was like the matriarch or whatever of the family, or patriarch. I think it's patriarch when you're a male. But, so everyone came to him, everyone depended on him. And I had so much on me. And I'm like, I can't fill those shoes, God. It's too much, and she released me and let me know. I mean, through the Lord working in her, gave me that release I needed to say, it's okay for me to live my life. It's okay for me to do what I desire to do at this point in my life. And I thank God for that. So that kind of lifted some of the burden and responsibility and guilt that I felt. Yeah.
I think that is extremely important that and considering you guys had got married so young, there was no time because normally we take that time to find ourselves in our 20s and our working
Yeah.
through our 30s. We're starting to realize who we are and what we like, what we want to be, because all years prior to that is it's primary education. Our parents are kind of running and sculpting our lives. So that part of you that was supposed to be developing the woman now
Yes.
became a wife, a mother instantly, needless to
Yes.
say. So there was no time for you to find out who Sandra was. So now it's like you're finding out who you are 43 years down the line.
Yes.
Like, wait, I'm supposed to do what? What is that? Now everything's foreign. It's like now you are learning life as what it's like to be a woman in the world without someone to rely on. And I can truly understand that because I was the total opposite. I had a lot of years of singlehood. So then getting married, it was like I knew what it was like to take care, pay my own bills, live life, and do the things that I wanted. So then I think one of the hardest things up front for me was adjusting to incorporating someone else into my life because I was so used to life by myself. I was like, and I had to sometimes remind myself and saying, hey, stop saying, like, listen, dude, I could do this without you. I was doing this for a long time. Like,
Ooh.
don't get it twisted. Like, I'm not in need.
Right.
And I had to learn that. I had to learn that part. I also had to learn how to love me and learn how to appreciate me. Because somebody who struggled with low self esteem growing up, it was hard. I remember trying to commit suicide at a young age. So getting to that part of, like I said, that whole therapy, learning me, learning to love me, identifying who Maisha was, and which played a huge part in me going through a process of a divorce. Because I tell people all the time, if I did not know who I was and had to go through that, yeah, it wouldn't be no conversation today. I would have either been dead or in jail. One of the two. Because the amount of toll, and it's like you went from being single, and again being single for so long and then getting married, and it's like, okay, now I'm learning how to woo somebody into my world, and then all of a sudden now I have to learn how to unwoo them out of my world. It was just a lot of different transitional points that really were very hard, and then also dealing with the emotions and the situation surrounding why the divorce has now arrived. So those parts are hard to channel through. So, you know, me on the front side of learning life and learning me, and then you on the back side of learning life and learning you after losing someone. And although you lost your husband in death, I lost mine to divorce. Divorce is like losing them in death. The only difference is they're still walking the earth, and
Amen.
yours is no longer here. You can't see them, hear them, or anything, and now you have to adjust to life. So, I totally understand, and also to know your husband and to know you guys were inseparable. Like, you seen one, you seen the other. So I can't imagine what that was like, from living with someone, being with somebody for 43 years, and then all of a sudden turn around and now I have to adjust my life to just me. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
Hmm.
not at all. So going to you, Tierka, um, with you going, if you being married for 10 years, what would be, hmm, 3 words that you would say would describe your relationship with your husband and why?
First, I would say it's simple. It doesn't take much for us to enjoy each other. And I feel like that was a key. For me, we can go to it's so funny because we like going and going and going to different places, but we don't really, we love the luxury restaurants. We love a good place, but we just be in there like, let's go home and watch a movie. let's go watch, let's get out of here and watch Netflix. It's the simple things that really made our relationship just so enjoyable. It doesn't take much. Um, So I will say that's number one, simple. Number two is fun. We are always up for an adventure. We are always up for adventure. Like, babe, let's go skiing. We'll go to big snow and we'll go skiing for the first time. Don't know what we're doing on them slopes. We get there. It's only one way down. So we screaming and crying on our way together, and roller coasters and just living life fun. And the last word I will say, safe. I feel safe with him. Um, I feel like I can just come to him with anything, or if I don't even have a word to say, or he doesn't even have a word to say, just being his in his presence, there's a safety. So, yeah. So I think our words are fun, simple, and safe.
I think those are extremely important because you always got to keep fun in your relationship.
Right.
You don't want the fire or the zeal to die out, so you always have to keep the fun in it. And
Yeah.
in doing that, you become best friends because you find the
Yeah.
enjoyment and the simple things in life to make it. And it's about being intentional on knowing your partner.
Exactly.
You guys know each other, so like you said, you sitting at a fancy restaurant, you're like, okay, we could just have some popcorn at
It's
home
not
and watch the
us.
TV. Why are we
Right.
here?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just not our relationship. There's some relationships that love the luxury life, and that's perfectly okay. It's
Yeah,
just that's why it's so important to know your match for yourself and not to compare it, because you'll get on social media and different things and be like, oh, I want to go to Del Fresco's and all of this other different places and stuff like that. And you're just like, and then you're mad at your spouse for not taking you there. But it's like, you don't, that's not what you really enjoy. So you
right.
have to learn what you enjoy. And yes, we love the good places, the luxury, 5 star, all of that. But there's something about the simple places too that really like connect us, and we can just eat a French fry and a hot dog, go to a game, and just really let our hair down and just, you know, have fun in the simple way, or sit outside, go to a park. That's something. And it's so funny because our first date, it's so funny. We went to a track and we walked. We walked the track and we talked, and then we went to a pizza shop and we just sat there for 3 hours and
Wow.
we talked until the workers were like, they were putting the chairs on top of the tables, and they were like, we're closed. It's certain stuff like that. Now to somebody else, they're like, that's not a first date, but for us, it was the perfect first date, and it just meant everything to us. And I think about that now. And oftentimes we go back to a pizza shop or something, we just sit, or the park, and we look at the water and we just talk, and that's just our simple love and our simple joy that we absolutely love. So
You see, and those are things that I love. I love the simplicity. Now, don't get me wrong, people say, oh my, you're bougie. And it's not necessarily that I'm bougie. I just like what I like.
and it's
I like a
okay.
fine meal. I love food, okay?
It's that's
But I
fine.
enjoy a restaurant. I will travel for food. Now, I probably shouldn't say that because I'm always laughing at my mom for always jumping somewhere to go travel for food. But I enjoy a good restaurant, a good ambiance. Or
Yeah.
I can go there, or you could take me to McDonald's and I can eat a burger and I'm fine. Like, I'm not,
Right.
that doesn't always have to be my meal of preference. Yeah, I love steak, I love seafood, but I don't have to, like, I do know how to cook. I enjoy cooking at home as much as I love going out to eat. But
Right.
it's adventurous. It's the thought. I think the thought in the process of paying attention to what your partner likes.
Right.
Or what makes them tick, or being like, it's not so much in what people say, it's in what they do, or even what they saying. If somebody's telling you like, oh snap, like most people know me, no, I love Starbucks. Listen, it's my preference of coffee.
Yes. Mhm.
Now, you buy me a Starbucks gift card, I'm probably, or you come in with a cup of Starbucks, I probably be the happiest kid ever. You thought you gave me $1 million. But it's the
Yeah.
joy in that you know and you heard me of something that I liked, and you said, you know
Mhm.
what? I'm passing the Starbucks. Let me get her a cup of coffee.
Right.
That's all it
Yes.
is. It's the simplicity of things that brings the most joy. It's not about the lavish things. I've never been one of, don't get me wrong, I like nice things, but that's not my go-to because I was raised with a father who wasn't present but brought gifts to make up for his absence. And so it was like I had a Movado watch at like 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Had a whole tennis, like a, it was like this gold elephant bracelet and like real gold elephant bracelet and ring that I couldn't wear to school because it cost too much.
Mm.
And I'm 10 years old with that stuff. Why why does a kid have that? But
Mhm.
it's those things, doing that, like gifts were never like,
Your love language.
yeah, it's like I appreciate it, but it's the thought that counts. So if you brought me flowers that had all my favorite colors in, I would probably be more excited about that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I appreciate it, but it's the details that matter to me. It's the thought that went behind the gift, not as, oh, I'm buying this because I'm trying to say I'm sorry and I screwed up, but here you go. Mm-mm. That never flies. But
Yeah, I agree. Love language is important. Like really learning your partner's love language and like you said, the flowers. Like for me, when my husband buys me roses, I'm like, oh yes, I love roses. Especially pink ones.
mm-hmm.
Not to say that I don't like other ones, but when he buys me the pink ones, I know he really thought about it. Or like you said, the coffee. Like I told you, I'm trying to be good from Starbucks. But he used to always bring me Starbucks home. I'm just like, that's a love language. A $3 cup of coffee, that's a love language. I'm happy. Like, you can't tell me nothing for the rest of the day. Like, I'm good. So learning your partner's love language is a key, is a big key with marriage.
Now, since we're on love language, what would you, so when you're talking about love languages, what's yours, Tierica? Well,
Um,
actually, yeah, what's yours, Tierica?
I feel like mine is mainly communication. When you can open up to me, then I'm like, okay, we good. We're good. Like that's a big love language for me. It doesn't take much to please me or anything. Like for me, it's just like you said, the coffee. Like if you bring me home Starbucks, even though I can't have Starbucks right now, I absolutely love it. I don't know. I don't really have nothing too big. It's just mainly communication. Like I just want to talk about everything. I want to just talk about everything. I want to enjoy a good Netflix new movie. Um, yeah, that's it for me. I know for some people that may be boring, but for me, that is
But
just
that was work for you.
that works for me. Give me a coffee, give me Netflix. Let's watch something, amazing, and that's it.
Sadie, how about you?
I well, I kind of know it a little bit, but I think for me, just um, expressing um, my feelings for you, sometimes, in communication, that way, but also just showing you different things that I guess with compromising and things like that. For me, once was single and I finally discovered who I was, I also discovered I do not like cooking. So at all. I like to eat though. I just don't like to cook. So, and I guess that's because my husband did like the majority of the cooking because I was babysitting the grand. So just to take that off of me, once we retired, he would do the cooking, and while I was taking care of the grandbabies. So I'm like, okay, I'm single now. I could just eat out and that's what I was doing, for 18 months. Just eating out, doing whatever, never cooking. And I also said I would never cook again. And that's a word you should never use because you don't know what God has in
Yep, he'll
store.
make you eat your words.
Yes, exactly, all the time. So now for me, with my fiance, he likes more of eating at home. We will go out on occasion because I was used to, like you said, going out or whatever. Also, but that would be my way of expressing my love language for him. I know these are things that he enjoys, so I will like cook on occasion. for him. And if I desire, oh, let's go out or let's do, something else, then, he's fine with that. So just trying to, like you said, learning the other person and what they like, what makes them happy. And that was the other thing I said. I'd never get in another relationship because I didn't want to learn anybody else's habits. That was the never that the Lord made me eat. Okay. So, but just learning also what works for them, what makes them happy. And just trying to, and in turn, knowing that they're doing what makes, you happy. And the communication is great. That was one of the things that really made me uh, make me really care about him and love him is the way he listens. Communication can be a two-way street, but I love the way that he just listens to everything. We'll sit down, we'll have conversation. Like when we first COVID was going on, so we couldn't date or anything, but we'd be on the phone for hours. I'm like 6, 7, 8 hours, just getting to know each other. And then when we
Mm.
finally could other, just being able to sit there and just have conversations. So many times we just sit at the kitchen counter and just have conversation. And then later on I'll be like, you remember that? He was like, yeah, I remembered you said that. And it'll be little simple things. I remember just mentioning something I needed at the house or something. The next time he'd come and visit me, he'd have it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't even remember I said it. But just having that, not just being able to express, but having someone to listen to what you're saying and remember and know what makes you happy and what your desires are. For me, that's like very important on both ends. Yeah. So
I,
basically, that's about it. Hmm.
that's that's good stuff. Um, Now, since I'm on you, Sandy, what would you say that now that you're in another relationship and now that you've been through that process of losing your spouse, for someone that may be out there that has lost their spouse and don't know how to find themselves again, or they're at that point of they're taking the time to, I would say, heal, but maybe consider getting into another relationship. Where would you say are some of the key things that they should be mindful of?
Well, I guess mostly, if you are going to, like you said, if they're healed, because it's definitely the healing is definitely a process for me. You go through the pain, and for me, the numbness, and then you go to, for me, the therapy help going to help and releasing some things that you may not even know it's there. Um, but then when you see that, for me, it's just like trusting God. Now, I remember when we first started talking, and I remember I was in the Acme parking lot. And I just sat there and I didn't know what was happening, what was going on. I know I felt a certain kind of way, when we would, be talking and stuff. And I just asked Lord, I said, Lord, I don't know what this is, but if it's not of you, if it's not meant for you, if I'm not going to be in your will, I said, block it. But if it is your will, Lord, then just show me that this is something that, you desire for my life. Because it's well, at that time, I think it was like 64, 65, something like, yeah, 65. It's like,
And you look good.
oh, thank you.
Your black is not cracking. Okay.
Thank you. But I just didn't know if that was something I was even ready for, because the healing doesn't stop. You're continually being healed. I mean, like you said, like I always say too, it's a book. It's a book of my life, and I've had previous chapters. And now God is starting a new chapter, So I think part of it would be to tell people just trust God in that journey because you don't know. I never in a million, if somebody had told me, oh yeah, you'll be getting married again, I probably would have slapped them or something. But you just don't know, seriously, but you don't know what God has in store. So for me, it's just trusting God. God, if this is your will, show me. Because I'm always asking God for signs. I need a sign for everything, you know? And he always give me a sign, and it's up to us to just be in his will where we can recognize the signs, know that it's him. Because like I tell everybody, Sandra can mess up some stuff. Okay, Lord, you got to really show me. Is it me with my, or is it you? And he just showed me. He knows what we need before we even realize it. Like I had no idea that, that he would bring someone else in my life, but he knew better than I did what was good for me. And also, and because my fiance also had lost his spouse. So that's a thing for us that I feel in some ways is unique. And he was married for a very, very long time also. For God to bring us through, and he brought us to each other just through us trying to help each other heal, just us encouraging each other. That's how he brought us together. I'm encouraging him, when the birthdays come up, or when the anniversaries come up, when the holidays come up, this is what you can expect, because I had gone through it 13 months prior.
Hmm.
So just in that, how God just grew our communication and our friendship into the place that we are, at now. So I think just to tell people just to be open to what God may have for you. You don't know where it's coming from, how it's coming, when it's going to come, but just be patient and just wait on God, and He will definitely direct you to whatever He has in His will for you. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, and I
basically.
think another thing to just even piggyback off of that is that the person you were when you married your first husband and now doing it again, they're two different people.
Oh,
And you're a
totally.
totally different person than where you were when you met your first, when you united with your first husband. So now going in with a fresh perspective and realizing what you need as a woman now versus what you needed when you were a woman at, hi, Jimmy's here. Um, when you needed um, a husband at 19 versus now being in your 60s, that's a totally different person.
Oh, yes,
So,
totally.
you know, as moving forward, whether you've lost your spouse or whether you've been divorced, just making sure that we have a fresh perspective of that person's not the other person. So looking
Yes.
at things at what you need in your life at this point of your life.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's been, I love the fact that he and I can communicate that. We talk about our spouses all the time. So, because we know what each other is feeling. I think it might be different had only one of us lost their spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And you might feel a little bit guilty about, like, okay, well, maybe I better not bring up, this situation, or, just be talking about old times, or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the other person might get offended. Well, why are they still talking about them? Or why aren't they, over that or past that? You really never get past that. You learn to live with it, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't get past the loss of a spouse, someone you've loved all those years. So he and I both have that understanding. So it's fine for us to just sit there and we can bring up each other's, spouses' names. We could talk about it, or whatever. And it's a good thing. You know what I mean? So you just gotta have an open mind and an open heart to the person that you're with. So, make sure that you know that they're okay with wherever you've been, and that you're okay with wherever they've been, as far as experiences in life, that they can align with each other. Yeah. So
Okay. So stepping over to you, T. For someone who may be considering getting married at an early age and wanting to start families. I know starting a family wasn't on the first priority of your list, but some people are like, "Oh, I'm young. I want to have kids, and then I want to raise my kids and be all that and other kind of stuff." What piece of advice would you give them for someone who it may be in their 20s or maybe in their 30s that may be just trying to start off that life and with someone?
I would definitely tell them to take their time. Don't rush. Date. Have fun. Um, and know that this is forever. Know that you're making a commitment for it to be forever. So get to know the person as best as you can while you're dating.
Mm-hmm.
As best as you can, because you're not going to know everything. Um, I would tell them, therapy is fine. It's perfectly fine to do. That does not mean anything is wrong in your marriage. Seek therapy just because. I will also say to don't give up on your dreams while you're married.
Absolutely.
Make sure you're with someone who supports your dreams also, because I know that's a big thing too. Sometimes when you get in a marriage, the other person is like, well, I don't see that. It's just like, no. This is what God has put in my life. This is the purpose that you still have a purpose
Right.
outside of your marriage too. Um, and don't forget that, and don't let anybody to allow you to forget that. But my main thing is just take your time. Just because you see someone else married after 2 years or 3 years or 6 months nowadays, that does not mean that has to be your story as well. When it's meant for you to get married, God will bless it. Always pray about the other person. Make sure ask God to send all the red flags so you can see them beforehand. No, and that's seriously like, God, please reveal, and don't overlook those red flags. Don't be so in love with what He's doing for you that you overlook those things that you wouldn't want your daughter to overlook, or um someone, your best friend, to overlook. Yeah, those are the things I would definitely say. Just really know what you desire um in your spouse. Be open, but take your time. Take your time.
Listen, I totally understand and appreciate all the wisdom. I'm sure there's going to be many people who will hear this conversation, and that my prayer is that it will help someone be wise in their decision in marrying someone. It will help somebody who needs healing um, after losing their spouse, or whether they've gone through a divorce, whatever the case may be, whatever journey they are in love, in this love journey. I think it's so vitally important that we are open and expressive when it comes to stuff like this, because a lot of people need to know somebody else out there that looks like me um, has been through it and they've made it. I can make it, um, and we can all get through this journey. And like you said, going into a marriage is not something that I take lightly or anybody should take lightly. Because if you go in with already contingencies that, oh, well, if this doesn't work, I'll just get a divorce. Let me help you understand something here. It costs you $75 to get married, and maybe whatever money you pay for whatever size wedding you have. But it costs you thousands and a lot of pain to leave a marriage. That's not something you want to go into taking it lightly, or taking it as a joke, or as something as, oh, it's just a trial period. Let me see what I want to do. And like Tierica said, don't miss out on the red flags. Don't ignore them. If something, I tell people now, if the light is green and it's flickering, I got questions. Because going through that journey, I never want to experience that ever again in life. It was not a cakewalk, nor was it easy. It was very painful and still is. I'm doing better now and I'm healing better now. But it was not easy going through that process, by no means necessary. But I also do know that what I learned a lot from the process. Although I knew and loved me, I also realized there was some more stuff that I I loved about me, and that things I won't tolerate moving forward. So with those things in mind, like I said, I pray that somebody is encouraged through this, that somebody gets some answers to some questions, and maybe you needed some confirmation for some questions that you had. But God sent this conversation for you to hear, so that way somebody might have sent it to you. Listen, so be it. I'm glad they did. So that way it's something that can help you moving forward in your life journey, and making sure that your future is much brighter, and that you're happier. And even if you're in a marriage and you guys are trying to figure out some ways to make it better, listen, as Tierra could say, keep it simple, keep it fun, be intentional. Don't have false expectations about things, but walk in those things. And as we've said across the board, communication is key. We need to communicate and learn how to communicate effectively. And it's not about making one feel worse than the other because your opinion of it matters and your opinion is right. No, both people may have valid points, but it's about finding the median and the commonality that which works best for both people as a unified body. So I thank Tierica for coming on. I thank Sandy for coming on. I appreciate you guys so much. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and so many key things I'm going to take away as I move forward in this life journey of love. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. And for everybody else, listen, we're going to put the handles on here so that way you can follow these people. That way you can hear their story. And y'all might want to go on Tierica's page and watch that video of them doing that skiing. It was quite hilarious, I must say. But all those things included, listen, you can follow me on any social media platform. I'm on Instagram as Maisha L. Price. I'm on YouTube as well as Facebook under Maisha Price Brand. Thank you guys for tuning in, and continue to follow us and stay tuned for things that may be coming up.
Okay, see you at the wedding.